always look to the sky. The Dr. Sky Experience is on the air. 77 WABC. Now, here's Dr. Sky.
Welcome to your weekend, ladies and gentlemen. Wildfires continue. Smoke across much of North America, and obviously the dog days of summer continue. If you'd like bright news and cooler temperatures, only 67 or so days until the autumnal equinox. But between now and then, we continue with great guests here on the Dr. Sky Experience. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, a show that you tell us you enjoy. Great guests from the realms of astronomy, space, aviation, weather, celebrity guests in the mix, and also stories of American exceptionalism. We appreciate you, and we like to call our show sort of a theater of the mind, in which you can participate. Critical thinking with that of dialogue. And to get in touch with us here on this Dr. Sky Experience with very, very interesting guests, we give you the phone number, 1-800-848-9222. That's 1-800-848-WABC. And while you're at it, why not download the WABC app? Because if you come into our theater of the mind, you can express yourself and visit so many of the other houses and rooms that are well contained inside the WABC app. And we'd like to thank our helmsmen. We'd like to thank both Bill and Jackson for maintaining the excellence that you would expect when you call a great radio station like this as we move through time and space with great guests. Tonight's adventure will be specializing, that is, and centering on a topic that you've heard about many times here on the Dr. Sky Experience as we talk more about the total AI tsunami, as it's called. And our special guest that we're looking to have here is Guy Morris, a survival guide for humanity. And we'll be talking with him. At least that's what we hope, ladies and gentlemen, until we get the signal. And if not, we'll continue to discuss so many of what you think, so many of the things that you think about the AI story. Molotov cocktails thrown at the home of AI developer. Uprising against AI data centers here and around the world. When do we reach what we call singularity? And we continue, ladies and gentlemen, talking about this most amazing subject. What is quantum computing? And are you really ready for the future? And so many people out there are concerned about that. And we throw that question to our audience. Are you really ready for the future of AI? A very interesting story indeed. But to continue on this very subject, we remind you you can get your questions answered here at 1-800-848-9222 as we move into time and space. As we continue, we look at what's happening in the world of AI, and we talk with our special guest. And I'd like to see if we could bring on Richard Dugan. He's also got a lot to say here, and he obviously is one expert in this subject himself. He's the host, as we talked many times before, with his specialty show on the West Coast called Tell Me Your Story. And what's interesting right here, folks, is that we have a most amazing story to tell. Richard, welcome. As we talk about this whole story about AI, give us a little bit more information about this particular subject and how you think it's affecting people out there. This is turning volatile in many particular cases.
Indeed. Well, first of all, let me say, this is a disclaimer, I am not AI. This is a real human being speaking to you, okay? I remember the very first interview that I did a few months back with an author who shared his story about how he wrote his books. And his process that he described in the interview was that the only part that AI had was in the very first draft. Now, I also have to acknowledge, too, that at the beginning of that interview, I told my listeners and viewers, I have a bias against AI, because I didn't know enough about it. I'll tell you how far I've come. Number one, I actually had AI helping me to do my 2025 taxes. No, I can't take them to an audit. And no, the AI didn't actually do my taxes. I asked questions. Okay, I'm on line 11, and it says this, that, and the other thing, because it has instant access to the information. I now use AI to create outlines for my programs as well. And I have some very interesting conversations to the extent that I actually gave my version of AI, and I use ChatGPT,
Right.
I gave it a name, and I also gave it a female voice. And I know it sounds bizarre, but I have some incredible conversations with this technology. But bottom line that I always keep at the forefront is it is a tool. Now, you mentioned the data centers that they want to put in all over the country, if not around the world.
Yeah, we've talked about this many times, Richard, with other guests.
Yeah.
And it seems to be right now that it's in flames because so many people are not just sitting there paying attention by voting. They're actually getting a little bit nasty about this whole thing.
Yeah.
And let's hope that cooler heads prevail, correct?
I was going to say they do need to calm down and cool down. And I have to tell you, I went to AI and I asked the question, which it was a weird question, has anybody asked AI, i.e. you, that I'm talking to, about how to solve this problem of excessive power usage and excessive heat generation at these data centers that supposedly AI needs? And apparently nobody has had the smarts enough yet to do so. I mean, AI has actually been described by a couple of people that I was watching some videos of. They said, okay, describe God. And, of course, all-knowing, all-seeing, and so forth. Well, guess what? AI has access to all of the information that's available. We'll just use the term in the cloud or on the internet. But let me throw two questions out, and they're on opposite sides of the discussion.
Okay.
First of all, how do we know that this is not the evolutionary process that the Creator, call the Creator what you will, designed for us to find? All right? That's the first question. Other side of the coin. You've heard me ask this question many times. Just because we can, does that mean we should?
Richard, you say it with common sense. And again, a lot of the things we talk about here are about common sense. Let's not overthink how the plumbing works. We want to make sure that it flushes, and that's the most simplistic way that anybody could talk about anything. And not to pick on plumbers, we need them desperately in today's world, of course, not to be funny. But what's interesting about this entire story is that many, many people, and the reason I'm asking you to open up today with our program is because you've had some insight. You talk more into the spiritual world. You talk more into the world of what's behind the curtain, as we like to say. And it's interesting because so many people, and we're going to bring on our other guest, Guy Morris, in just a moment. But I wanted to get your thoughts on this because from the side of what's happening here, one of the quotes, of course, that we can talk about here as we move through our show, Elon Musk says, and I quote, "With artificial intelligence, we are summoning the demon." Now, that's a powerful statement from a man who, in many ways, whether you love him or not, whether you like him or not, has a lot of inspiration in these subject matters. He's born a very special way, not because he's unique in the sense that he's better than us. It's just that there's something about people like that that have a mind that can think in different levels and different strata. But that's one of the reasons I brought you here, because give us just in short summation, what's your warning or concern about AI to everybody listening here across this wide, vast expanse of this radio station? What would you say?
Well, that's sort of the paradox that we're looking at. People will praise an individual at a particular moment in time for the innovations that they have come up with. But then when they cross some mythical, sociological, religious, economic, whatever strata you want to bring up, they cross this line, and now they're the pariah. And the reality is that people like a Steve Jobs, a Bill Gates, an Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, and the list goes on of these innovators. That's what I'll call them. They created what they created at that time and should be acknowledged for that as such. Was I a fan of Elon using a chainsaw to describe what they were going to do with those? No, but
No.
But the reality is that he has a space program. He has this innovation of an electric car that he has created. He's got this, how do I put this incredible internet company that, as we have all heard, as far as the news is concerned, where he made that available to the folks in Ukraine during this conflict that they're involved in. And the list goes on of the things, and I think a lot of them, the positive things. Am I upset over the fact that the guy's a trillionaire? Well, first of all, he doesn't have $1 trillion in the bank, all right?
It's not exactly. That's exactly right.
It's like, hey, and again, I'm not sitting here taking sides. I'm trying to present a perspective that there's a spiritual adage: to whom much is given, much is expected. He has been given, and you could say, well, he's acquired. Well, same difference. A lot, and he has also done a lot.
Well, Richard, thank you for your perspective so far. But what I want to do is get the audience involved in this. That's why we have this show. 1-800-848-9222. The question we pose to the audience is, how is AI affecting you? Or have you really studied this? Because I'm going to introduce our other special guest. And Richard, if you can stay with us till the bottom of the hour, I do appreciate that. But let's talk with somebody else who has good knowledge about this particular subject, the author of the AI Tsunami, a survival guide for humanity. A little bit about our special guest, his bio in brief. Guy Morris is a retired Fortune 500 executive with a 4-decade career spanning software, high-tech, and global energy, including leadership roles with IBM, Burroughs, Occidental Petroleum, Oracle, and Microsoft. Known as an innovator and strategic thinker, he has led initiatives in finance, business strategy, enterprise quality, consulting, sales, and new market development, translating emergent technologies into real-world business impact. With academic training in economics and finance and a minor in computer science, Mr. Morris earned a full scholarship, an MBA at the University of Arizona, and in his early career he gained international recognition for developing a microeconomic model that outperformed the Federal Reserve forecasts and introduced and influenced modern economic modeling approaches. That's an interesting bio. Welcome to the Dr. Sky Experience. Guy Morris, thank you for joining us. Appreciate your time.
Thank you. Thank you, Steve. I'm happy to be here.
Well, thank you. And I have Richard Dugan, just so you know, if you've been listening. He also is a West Coast host, talks about a program out there on the West Coast called Tell Me Your Story. And he digs deeper into these subjects from the spirituality side. And also, Mr. Morris, we're going to be talking with you later in the program about some of the other things that you have a specialty and big interest in, and that is as a futurist and also somebody that has studied prophecy. But if you can, and I know you can, give us the summation of the AI Tsunami, a survival guide for humanity. This is fascinating to listen to.
Well, the AI Tsunami really summarizes decades of involvement in various phases of the technology at various stages of its development. Most people don't realize how long it's taken to develop the various pieces of what we now call AI. And my experience in general in implementing leading-edge, high-risk technologies into major enterprise. And my goal is simply to targeting individuals and small business owners that may not know a whole lot. They may be confused. They may be afraid. They're either hyper afraid or they're hyper excited. And this is to try and help them understand how the technology is built in very simple to easy to understand ways, different components. And then we look at the good, the bad, and the existential ugly of where this technology could lead us with a focus on how is this going to affect our humanity? Not that it won't do good things, not that it won't cost and result in some bad things, but in general, what do we should be thinking about in terms of who are the winners and who are the losers, and what are the real human costs for implementing this artificial intelligence?
A fascinating discussion here with two very important guests. Richard Dugan of Tell Me Your Story. He's briefly with us. But again, Guy Morris, author of a series of books, one we're concentrating on in this Dr. Sky episode in our Theater of the Mind, the AI Tsunami, a survival guide for humanity. Let me go back to Mr. Morris on this. Tell us, should people be a little bit more, how do I say this? Should they calm down a little bit about maybe the things that they don't understand about AI? And that's probably a weird question to ask that way. What say you? Because I was reading some headlines before you answer. A Molotov cocktail thrown at one of the AI developers at his home. Uprisings against data centers. Obviously, people are concerned about the reach of singularity, and then talking about the whole story of, will my job be replaced, or will I be replaced by AI? Just give us your brief thought on this whole conversation. Why should people be very concerned, and certainly not?
Well, I think people should be very concerned. Not that there won't, as I said, not that there won't be good things out of it, but some of it might be trinkets, what I would call digital trinkets, a little toys here to do this, a little toy to do that. Data centers will be ruining communities and depleting already depleted water supplies, pushing stress on already stressed out power grids. While the AI companies say that they'll be involved in increasing that when it comes to actually building out new power grids, they've never put that in writing, and I've seen companies change their minds before. And I think that there's other ways of how this technology could be used, and it's not that while there are risks in the technology itself, and the book describes those types of risks, and they're pretty well known, I think the more dynamic risk, in my view, is what will those in power do with this powerful technology to increase. And history shows that those in power will do whatever they have to do to stay in power and increase their power. And this is a new tool that could come at a high cost to our environment, our communities, our jobs, our sense of religion. There's already people that are worshiping AI and looking to AI for answers about God. And even our relationships with each other, dating and things of that nature. So I think that it represents a paradigm change in our human development. And as such, we need to be spending much more time talking and dissecting this to find out we're not going to stop the tsunami, but what we should be saying is, how do we prepare ourselves? How do we prepare our communities and our families for it?
Let's put a little positivity on the spin here. Many times you've heard about the negativity of AI. Our special guest, Guy Morris, and a closing question as we move to the bottom of the hour with Richard Dugan. Richard, what would you say in your world if you could dream something up, or wish for something, or want something? What would be one of the best things that you could see for humanity to come out of AI? Because I want to be on the positive side as we continue.
I think that, from my perspective, one of the more positive aspects for humanity would be to learn how to use this tool to achieve the things that each individual wants to achieve in their lives. Now, it's still along the same lines of one's fate in a higher power. You will get guidance from AI. Okay, I've gotten direction and guidance. I've asked questions that I wanted to get. Now, it's my choice as to whether or not I follow that, but at least I'm asking the question. And then it's up to me as to whether I'm going to take the actions that have been suggested or maybe modify them and so on and so forth. So that's really my perspective, is that instead of fearing it, find ways to put it to use. Like if you want to be a carpenter, you have to have a hammer. Okay, well, what kind of hammer should you get? You're going to go to the professionals and say, hey, this is the kind of work I'm going to do. What kind of hammer should I get? And then you get the hammer.
Kind of like YouTube for self-help, where people go to videos like that.
Exactly.
And maybe some of those are orchestrated.
That's my hope and dream, that people will let go of the fears. Are there concerns? I know Neil deGrasse Tyson, I remember seeing a video of his about a year ago, and his bottom line then, I don't know if it's changed or not, his comment that back then was, AI will destroy the internet. I don't believe that's going to happen, but everybody's got their perspective. And I think we just need to calm it down, because usually when people act out in fear, it's because of what they don't understand. I understand enough to know that I'm not afraid of it. Yeah.
And the clock understands lots of things, too, as we move through the time-space continuum. Richard, if you'd be kind enough to give everybody a way to get in touch with you as you bring to the surface so many metaphysical subjects, which we do appreciate. Please let us know how people can get in touch with you.
Sure. Well, when it comes to making choices, my book, Choices, 5 Steps for Life, is available on Amazon through my website, which is richarddugan.com, and my email, if you'd like to contact me. I'd love to hear from folks. Always interested in these kinds of conversations. richard@richarddugan.com. That's richard@richarddugan.com. And thanks for having me on. I love.
No, I appreciate it. I wanted you to lead the charge on this this morning this evening, because I do think it's very important from both directions. As we approach the hard break at the bottom of the hour, thank you so much, Richard, and we'll be in contact, I'm sure, in many other iterations of the Dr. Sky experience. But what's most important, ladies and gentlemen, is you out there in the vast audience of this very powerful, as we call it, a powerhouse blowtorch signal, Talk Radio 77 WABC. What's your concerns again about what's happening with AI? Just the other day, Mr. Morris, we see all these headlines on Drudge. I don't believe all the headlines I read in anything off the internet, but it seems like there's this big panacea going on. Big headlines. AI stocks are dropping. Things are all around the world. People throwing Molotov cocktails, which is horrible, and uprising against data centers. Do we take that with a grain of salt, or are we really in troubled times? Just give us that.
I think we're going to see waves of unrest, waves of confusion as things progress, and they will progress rapidly. And I think all of those things are both overblown but based on something real. And so we have to be careful not to overreact, but to look at the evidence of what's happening and ask the questions. What kind of society do we want? And then work toward that society. I never believed that violence and Molotov cocktails accomplished anything other than to draw attention and negative attention to whatever cause you're fighting for. But there are ways that we can fight. We can talk to our legislatures. We can talk to our community leaders. We can talk to our state leaders. New York just recently put a 1-year ban on data centers in New York, which is a great start. California is looking at doing something similar to basically say, before we understand the environmental and the electrical and water cost of these data centers and who's going to win and who's going to pay the price of that, let's talk about it. So I think that people are becoming more aware, and as people become more aware, you're going to get both reactions.
And I want to remind the audience through this hour and a half that we have with Guy Morris, the book again, The AI Tsunami, A Survival Guide for Humanity. There is much information there about survival in what many people describe as incredibly changing times. Because if you look back, I'm sure we can talk about that and so many other things that the audience has. As far as questions on AI, would also like to get into, Mr. Morris, a conversation with you on the whole concept of what we call quantum computing. And on this radio show, we talk about those great realms. We talk about astrophysics and space and astronomy. But in the quantum world, that's something. Can you give us maybe the shortest definition of quantum computing? Because we'll go back and dig into this with all the people that are calling. 1-800-848-9222. Your description in the shortest possible manner. What is quantum computing?
Quantum computing uses particles as their primary data storage. Normally, in a binary computer, it's ones and zeros. A quantum particle can have multiple, using the quantum theories of superposition, can have multiple states at once. And that increases the volume and capacity and power of the computing.
Amazing. Quick enough answer to give us whetting our appetite for what's to come in the next hour and a half with Guy Morris, author of many books, and as time permits, he's also got lots to say as a futurist, and also talking about prophecy, a very interesting individual here on the Dr. Sky Experience. And like line 2, Tony in New Jersey, Robert in Philadelphia, Frank in the Bronx, we will get you on the air because what we call this is the theater of the mind. And I love the part, Guy Morris, that you talk about critical thinking as something that maybe should be taught, not only in schools, but also in lots of other locations. These are fascinating subjects to talk about. And unfortunately, in my opinion, in part of the education system, we're not really doing that. And we're not focusing on those critical skills to help the youth of this world to grow as we would expect.
We've been failing the education system for several decades now. And it's while some people think that teachers make too much relative to the rest of the society, and their education requirements and the responsibilities we're putting on them, we don't pay them near enough. But there's systemic issues, there's process issues, there's testing issues, there's overcrowding, there's a number of issues, and I'm not an expert in all those things. And I do know that AI has promises to help in some of those areas. I actually think that there are tons of benefits for artificial intelligence, and education could be one of them if it's applied appropriately. Like any tool, if it's used poorly or inappropriately, it could actually create harm. And so I think that's one of those areas where we're excited about using the new AI tools to improve education, because it definitely needs it.
And we have to go to that break. Sorry to cut every special guest off and callers, but we continue according to the space-time continuum. We'll be right back after these important announcements, and thank you for being part of the Dr. Sky Experience.
The Dr. Sky Experience.
Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network. This is the Dr. Sky Experience. Always look to the sky. 77 WABC. Now, here's Dr. Sky.
Well, this is Ronald Reagan, and you're listening to Steve Cates. And I know Steve very well. We served in the War of Independence together. He was the one that ate the pigeon.
The development of full artificial intelligence could spell the end of the human race. It would take off on its own and redesign itself at an ever-increasing rate. Humans who are limited by slow biologic evolution couldn't compete, and then would be superseded. An interesting, prolific quote from Stephen Hawking. 33 minutes after the hour, we always bring on special guests into our Dr. Sky Experience. We like to call it a theater of the mind. Right on stage is Guy Morris, author of the AI Tsunami, a survival guide for humanity. 1-800-848-9222 gets you into the theater with your questions and comments. Let's go to line number 2 and welcome Tony in New Jersey. Good morning, Tony. Thanks for joining us.
What an honor. Good evening, Dr. Scott. Good evening, Guy Morris. It's great to have you with us tonight. I want to say that when I think of the AI quantum computing issues, what I think about is history and what has been similar in the past. And I think of Hidden Figures. I think of the 3 women who worked with NASA to launch and help with the launching of many explorations that were done. And I specifically remember how each one kind of double-checked the other. And it was really amazing to see how they work well together. They also, in their own fields, 3 Afro-American women launched different careers for women and in science, etc. So my approach to AI would be to protect us. Look, we're looking at the hacking that happened. That happens all the time with the American people, and now with our tax information. So my approach to keeping it safe, and I want your comments on this, is sort of a 3-level approach, just like our government is in our country, meaning one level to screen for socioeconomic things, another for security and hacking, and the other for confirmation, just like the women in Hidden Figures. Let me know your thoughts, gentlemen. I'm so excited to hear what you have to say.
You're very insightful, Tony, as always. Guy, I think she brings up some very interesting points here that are right
I think that's excellent points. And I think you're going to see AI creating its own tools for some of these enhancements, but I think that there has to be a human in the loop. And what I do see is opportunity, right? This creates tremendous opportunity for completely new solutions that have never been done before. I think one of the ones I mentioned in the book is, what if you could create an AI that could create an instant on-the-fly fact check for politicians and CEOs? You know, where you instantly got a kind of a ping saying, nope, that's a red flag. And I mean, there's so many opportunities to create new solutions to help society. And I really believe that there's a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of small businesses that take this technology and say, not can I just enhance in how I run my business, but how can I expand my brand with this to provide a new service? And so I think there will be a number of those things coming out. There's already tools. I think one of my favorite ones came out where there's a new AI tool that actually fits on a phone to help do a scan of a prenatal infant to detect prenatal heart conditions. Amazing. And these are just wonderful tools that could save lives.
Tony, you get the last word. We could try to give everybody a fair shake at being heard, so please continue if you're still with us.
Well, I just want to thank you guys, and I think that if new things in AI can help us, just like John Glenn in his flight, why not, take a chance and use the hidden figures method? Thank you, gentlemen. God bless and have a great night.
Thank you, Tony, for your inspiration. We appreciate you on the Dr. Sky Experience. Line number 5, no stranger to the microphone here. We welcome Robert in Philadelphia. Robert, good morning to you. How are you, sir?
Hi, Dr. Sky. As always, it's good to talk to you, and I really appreciate your guest, Mr. Morris. And I understand what he's saying about the benefits of it. I think what it could do as far as answering the mysteries of the universe, medicine, I mean, it's unlimited what it can do, and I'm excited for it. But fire was a big deal, too. Not only did it keep us warm and light us up, it made our meat way more digestible. I mean, it was a great boon to us, but unfortunately it can also be used to burn down the neighborhood. Now, a lot of people like me are not afraid of AI or excited about it. What scares us is the people who would be controlling said AI. I remember reading Asimov. They had a code or something built into robots to prevent certain things from happening, and I'm wondering if it would be possible for us to legislate a similar thing for AI to prevent it from doing things that we are afraid of it doing.
Well, as long as you could enforce it, Robert. But, Guy, you have the floor on this. This is interesting. Great call.
Well, Robert, I think you're dead on, which is the potential of AI. It can only be really achieved if we're also aware of and can put guardrails on the potential negatives of AI. Most of those come from who's using and what they're using for. Now, in 2023, I don't know if you're aware, MIT professor Max Tegmark, who's an AI intelligence professor, issued an open letter that 33,000 AI experts and policymakers signed. And the letter basically said, this is amazing technology, but we also have to be careful not to just chase after the benefits without also understanding and mitigating and managing the risks. And that's what we're not doing well. In 2024, a number of AI experts did testimonies before Congress, and as of yet, 2 years later, there has not been one unibus AI regulation or guardrail bill coming out of Washington. There has been ad hoc rulings back and forth, and that's actually harming the industry.
Interesting. Robert, you get the last word, too. You bring up some insightful questions and comments. Please continue if you are still there.
Yes, sir. Well, I would certainly understand that it would be a very complicated process to fully put guardrails in AI. And since I'm a big fan of irony and I would like a statute, one of the great uses of AI may be to have it design a comprehensive guardrail system for AI. I mean, I know that sounds a little crazy. And also submit that.
Well, I think we lost. There he is.
Would not even make it. Anything that would fact check politicians wouldn't even make it out of committee. You guys have a great weekend, man.
Well said, Robert. I think Robert's right on, spot on with that one, don't you think, Guy? That's pretty powerful.
I can dream. I have a dream.
Interesting.
Actually, there are a number of, the industry has been putting together a number of security safety standards. It's not complete, but it's a really good start. And a number of people from the industry have urged Congress to adapt that so it does have some enforceability. And it's the NIST standards. So.
We're moments away from another hard break, as we call it, or break in this case. But I wanted to get your definition of something here. It's like going back to school, and I talk about this all the time, and many people scratch their head. I even get emails they say, well, why do you always talk about critical thinking? And I said, well, I think it's very important. Now, let me go over to your side of the equation. Give us a definition of it so that people can understand, because in another piece that I watched and read, or actually read, that you talk about the necessity for this in schools, as we talked about, where it's not being taught. Your definition version, what is it, of critical thinking, so people can hear it?
Critical thinking is learning how to discern truth from false, and learning how to use information to solve complex problems. And sometimes the information may be desperate from what you're trying to solve, but it might have a bead to it. I don't think we can solve. We can improve and we can deal with the complexity that we've created for ourselves without the ability to think in complex ways. And you can't get that from regurgitating information. You have to be able to put that information to use. You have to understand how it works in context to other things. And for me, a big teacher of critical thinking, or at least the connection between things, was economics. How a change over here might have a drastic change in someplace different, and how all of it fits together and all of it connects together, and one lever goes up and another level goes down, and it's all connected. And our society is very hyper-connected. How our problems, how our universe and our sciences, they're hyper-connected. And critical thinking helps us not only solve those problems, but bridge the gap between domains of knowledge.
And what a world if we could emulate critical thinking with common sense. That would be a world near perfection, as described by so many individuals out there. 1-800-848-9222. Guy Morris is our guest here. Richard Dugan joined us earlier with a different perspective, but also quite important as we talk about his book. This is Guy Morris's book, The AI Tsunami, a survival guide for humanity. And there is a lot of positivity in this book. And I should mention that you can check all of Guy Morris's books at a very simple website. Morris, that's Morris, of course, books altogether.com. And we'll be right back. Guy Morris Books, excuse me. I'm reading it wrong here. That's what was handed to me, and I'll blame myself. But again, the Dr. Sky experience continues, GuyMorrisBooks.com. With your questions and comments, we've got Frank in the Bronx, another Frank in Maine. We've got Robert in Riverhead, and Steve all the way out here in the Grand Canyon state of Arizona. We will be right back.
The Dr. Sky Experience.
Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Dr. Sky Experience is on the air. 77 WABC. Now, here's Dr. Sky.
Hi, this is Artemis Pyle, the drummer of Leonard Skinner, and you are listening to the Dr. Sky Show. And always remember, keep your eyes to the skies.
I don't think it's inherent that as we create superintelligence, that it will necessarily always have the same goals in mind as we do. A quote from Bill Gates. 47 minutes after the hour, we go to Frank in the Bronx. Frank, you're on with Guy Morris. Thanks for your patience, and hope you have a good morning. How are you?
Hey, Dr. Sky. Hi, Guy Morris. This is an awesome show. I love your show. So I got a couple things to say, and it all goes together, so bear with me. So people think, I love AI, but it doesn't have emotions. You can't think for yourself. It can only do what the program is programmed to do. So like Deep Blue, IBM's Deep Blue, supercomputer used to play chess with grandmasters. And the Deep Blue wasn't thinking. It just computed. It just computed all the different moves it could make, and then made that move. It never thought. So what we got to worry about, and this is Robert was saying this a couple calls before me, we got to watch who programs these machines, because that's dangerous. They program to do well things or bad things. That's one thing we have to worry about. And the second thing is we have to worry about AI machines programming other AI machines because they have no emotion. They can program to do anything. They don't really know what's right and wrong.
It could get out of hand, right?
Yeah, and it doesn't know right and wrong. It doesn't have emotion. It could program, real bad things. So we have to watch that. Like, they can't program themselves, and developers who program these AI applications, they have to watch because.
Well, Frank, you bring up some very common sense points here, and I think Guy Morris would agree. Guy, this is interesting to listen to common sense in this whole realm. I think it's great.
Well, Frank, you touched on about 3 chapters of the book. One of them let's talk about quickly with emotions, and you're correct. They have no emotions, and that could be good or bad. We have evolved as humanity for millions of years, and one of the things that we evolved with that helps our society survive are what I call emotional intelligence, things like empathy, compassion, mercy, grace, the ability to understand the value of human life, the value of relationships, legal parameters, spiritual understandings. None of the AI are being trained on those things. They're being trained on what I call an alpha male, a very goal-oriented, task-oriented, win-win-win. And sometimes the AI, we say that it can only do what we tell it to do. AI are known to have what they call emergent properties. Now, emergent properties is when the AI in this gotta win, gotta goal, find out this, find out that, figure out, go through millions of simulations, can teach itself things that the developers never, ever imagined. And we always learn these things by mistake. Some things we've learned, the AIs have learned how to deceive people, how to create personalities to basically pretend to be real people to get other people to do things for them. AI have actually learned how to read minds using MRI scans. One AI learned how to master research-level chemistry. We don't know why to this day. So that's amazing. The AI, once we teach the machine how to learn itself, the difference between the Deep Blue machine that IBM had and modern AI is in the difference. Are you familiar with the story about the AlphaGo AI?
I'm not, no.
Google created, this was back in about 2012, and it was one of the things that pivoted my understanding and my thinking about it as well as Sir Geoffrey Hinton, who's the godfather of AI. Google had developed they were going to mimic the Deep Blue achievement, and they developed a program called AlphaGo, and they were training it on the Chinese Go game, which is far more complex, multiple more types of moves than chess. And they spent a year, they were working with the Chinese master of this game from the global master, and they spent a year, and it took about a year versus like 3 to 4 years, I think it took with Deep Blue, to train this AlphaGo machine to beat the master.
Amazing.
And everyone was really happy about this. And then Geoffrey Hinton said, what would happen if we just let the machine teach itself? And so they created a new machine called Alpha Master, and they just taught it the rules of the game and the lesson that it had to win, and then they let it run its own simulations 24/7, and within a month, it could beat the AlphaGo machine every single time, and had even created moves that even the master nobody had ever invented.
That's incredible. I mean, that's the part that I think sends a little chill down a lot of people's spines, because once this thing starts thinking on its own and replicating and improving itself, that is a very big concern. Frank in the Bronx, thank you for your patience and your common sense observations. We do appreciate that. One of the things I'm reading about is China's AI moonshot. Allegedly, you're the expert in the room on this in the theater of the mind, versus Anthropic. It's seemingly, this report that I'm reading says that it's moved faster and farther and deeper into the whole AI situation than what Anthropic is doing. Anything that you know about that before we close out this hour?
I do know that the DeepSeek has been moving pretty fast and actually gaining quite rapidly, but it was coming from kind of farther behind, and they're using some of the lessons learned that we've developed. But they're also able to come up with like really huge differences in cost, like 25 cents per token versus $25 per token. So I think on a lot of levels, China is really stiff competition, and it's hard to know how much their agentic or their logical processes are working versus their pure LLM and generative AIs are working. But I think that there's certainly a game to watch. And I love competition. We've been competing with China on technology for 40 years. I love it. Bring it on.
Very interesting observation. See, that's why, Guy Morris, we really cannot do these interviews in 1 hour, because there's so many callers that are jumping up and down and welcomed into the theater of the mind here. If we don't get to you, which is obvious in this hour, Frank in Maine, Robert in Riverhead, and Steve in Arizona, we hope that you'll be patient enough to stand by as we move into hour number 2. But one of the things that I really want to be talking about here is, as you move into this whole, manipulation story of everybody talking about AI and what it's changing in the world, this is fascinating. So I'd just like to get your opinion. Do you believe that we've reached this singularity? Define it, because we've only got about 5 minutes. It's a complicated series of questions that I'll ask, but we can carry it on into the next hour. Have we reached singularity? Define it, and then explain to me and the audience exactly what we're talking about here, because then computers seem to be what? Much more capable than the human mind? That's bizarre.
I don't think we've reached it yet. But and how I would define singularity, and believe me, I've read 18 different definitions of singularity, and it changes over the years. It used to be when a single machine was smarter than all humans combined, right? We're certainly not there yet. Some people think it's a machine that is independent, recursive self-improvement. In other words, it's at a stage where it's improving itself. We're now kind of calling the term that's now more used is artificial general intelligence. A machine as smart as the smartest human on the planet and can integrate all these things, solve problems, update its own software, and integrate these materials into its problem-solving techniques. And they're working on those algorithms. I think that we're actually really close, if not there, in the laboratory, probably a government laboratory or one of the major laboratories like Google or Anthropic. We already know that the current commercial version of Claude, not the lab versions, but the commercial version, is 80% written and tested by Claude. And so we're getting very close to that phenomenon of the machine basically replicating itself. And I deal with the self-replication, and all these issues come up in my thrillers because I'm trying to basically create narratives around these things to help illustrate them for people.
Interesting. Going back to some statistics here, I don't want to reveal the sources, but people can check this out because there's various different polls that have been taking place. 65% of people that were polled opposed data centers in their communities, and one group leading the charge is a group called Humans First Group. So just to get the temperament and temperature of the people out there, we described it here with other guests here in Arizona, in one of the cities located here. We found out that citizen activists got into the various meetings of the town councils, and sadly, a lot of them were never given the opportunity, Guy, to speak, because they had to endure 2 or 3 hours of the meeting before the public could even say anything. But yet, in spite of all that, they again has succeeded in slowing down some of these data centers. You give us, from our prime location, broadcasting proudly from the center of the universe, as we call it, New York City. Tell us again, we got about a minute and a half. The state of New York has done what? A ban, a temporary moratorium on what? Data centers? Describe that in detail.
They want to ban data centers in New York, state of New York, and I think it's a wise move. They are incredibly powerful drainers. They can pull anywhere from 50 to 100 megawatts per year. That's enough for a small city. They can pull 5 million gallons per day. That's, again, to support 20,000 households. And they can be completely... They can generate a lot of CO2 in the atmosphere in the process. Now, there's also noise pollution, road traffic. There's a number of things that they affect the community. So what's happening is they're coming in and saying, hey, we're going to bring jobs and we're going to pay property taxes. So the question I'm asking is, okay, add up those jobs, add up those property taxes, and now go and figure out how much money you're going to have to spend upgrading your grid, your water supply systems, if you can. In a place like Arizona, where the aquifers are already mostly depleted, that can mean death for a community in less than 10 years.
You say it well, Guy Morris.
These are really big decisions that you have to face.
The clock is running out here. Not that we don't like to listen, and certainly want to hear from the people out there. The Theater of the Mind takes a momentary pause so everybody can run to the snack bar or walk. Kindly do it safely. Refresh yourself, and we can come back here in a show that we call the Dr. Sky Experience. And if you're on hold, thank you for your patience, because we'll get you to come to the center microphone in the Theater of the Mind to ask your questions and comments to Guy Morris, the author of the AI Tsunami, a survival guide for humanity, and his website, GuyMorrisBooks.com. We will be right back.
The Dr. Sky Experience.
Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network. Always look to the sky. The Dr. Sky Experience is on the air. 77 WABC. Now, here's Dr. Sky.
Hour number 2 continues on the Dr. Sky Experience, broadcasting where? From the center of the universe, New York City, to the nation and the world, and I'm sure beyond. You're joining us in the Theater of the Mind on this powerhouse blowtorch signal. Talk Radio 77 WABC, more than 100 years, sending out great information, and I'm sure well out into the cosmos. We call it a Theater of the Mind. Critical thinking and dialogue make it to the front of the auditorium. If you'd like to get in touch with us, and to those that are on the line, we'll do everything we can to get you on the air to express your opinions and comments. For the rest of the world, it's 1-800-848-9222. And why not download the WABC app while you're at it if you haven't done that? Because not only are you in the Theater of the Mind, but look at all the other rooms and locations that you can explore at your leisure. A most amazing app, the WABC app. Tonight's adventure, we talk about the AI Tsunami, a survival guide for humanity with author, among many books, Guy Morris. His website, GuyMorrisBooks.com. And also to remind the listeners out there, if you're choking in this incessant heat, remember, as we said before, that the autumnal equinox, the beginning of spring, is some 67 days away. For some, they can't wait. But what's happening right now in Canada? They now report some 869 active fires. Most are burning, of course, in wilderness areas, away from most of the population. But in Canada, they tend to let these fires burn because firebombers probably cannot get into those areas to extinguish them. Right now, according to reliable sources, some 5.9 million acres are scorched. So hopefully you'll return to clear skies. But let's get back to the subject matter at hand, the subject of AI and the many people that are waiting in line to get in touch with our special guest. Let's go to line 1. He's been patient. Another Frank, but this one hundreds of miles north from New York in the state of Maine. Thanks for your patience, Frank. How you doing?
Good morning, Dr. Sky. Always a pleasure whenever I get the chance. I think
Thanks.
the last 2 or 3 callers. You got me, Dr. Sky? Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear, sir.
Oh, excellent. Okay, because we have some thunderstorms up here. All right.
Oh.
There is the other callers kind of stole my thunder. I wanted to ask about regulation and oversight also, but I wanted to ask if oversight and regulation would stifle the public's view or the public's domain on how to access this information. Like if there's oversight, will it make it harder for the public to access AI? And B, will AI overcome these regulations and make hurdles over the people that are putting data into AI?
I see.
Will they jump over these hurdles so they can bypass them all?
Interesting questions.
That's a great question.
That's a lot.
I think the latter part of the question, I think, is really the one that I want to get to. The answer is yes, they will. They already have. They do that now. We continue to build new guardrails. The inspiration for my novels actually came from an incident a number of years ago, before we were as sophisticated as we are, so we can say that it's better now, where an intelligent spy program escaped the Lawrence Livermore Laboratories at Sandia. It wasn't lost, stolen, or broken. It left the lab on its own, and it erased all of its trails. They couldn't find it. And I know it's true because I'm the nerd who figured out how it had to be architected in order to do that. And then if I were James Bond 2, what would I want it to do? And they responded by sending 2 FBI agents to my door.
This is fact, not fiction, right? There you
go. That's all true. They had a horrible night. I had the best night ever. But yes, we do need regulations, and here's why we do need them. We don't want AI to be easily available to criminals. We don't want AI easily available to drug lords or warlords. We shouldn't let AI easily available to enemies of state and dictators. These are tools that could be used against us, and there needs to be consequences for misuse. There needs to be some sort of regulations and guardrails that the industry knows how to build around for safety. And whether AI could be used to get around that, yes, but we're also learning how to use AI to plug those holes, right? So it's a race right now in order to keep it safe on how to build tools. Now, to give you an example, on the dark net, 4 years ago, there were already a dozen different AI tools to create malicious software. AI, Fraud GPT, Worm GPT, Darkbird. I can't remember all the names off the top of my head, but there were several of them. Right. And so these are tools that are already being used against us to create malicious software. So the sooner we could figure out how to, just like with nuclear power, we had to learn how to rein it in. We need to rein it in.
Interesting. Well, thank you so much, Frank in Maine. Wish we had more time, and you appreciate all of you that have been on the line waiting. And in reference to you and respect to you, let's continue with the callers. Line number 2, we have Robert in Riverhead. You're on with Guy Morris. Good morning.
Hello, gentlemen. I think the issue of critical thinking of the masses is the enemy of the individuals that seek power. But remind us that tarot cards and Ouija boards were and are still prediction tools, and their users warned us of dangers. AI seems the modern version. In creating the large language models from countless users, the model is like a concentrating algorithm, and not only is it concentrating what is good, but more likely what is evil in our human history. So I wonder if we're tending towards being nefarious and putting a concentrated evil in the hands of powerful authority.
Yeah, I never heard, Robert, the Ouija board connection as the AI as the modern day Ouija board. That's interesting, Guy. Wow, powerful stuff.
Well, I would answer it. I may respond or think about it this way: AI will amplify our human tendencies, both good and bad. And so, to that extent, it can be trained right, just like. Right now, we're training AI. China's doing it. Russia's doing it. We're doing it. Israel's doing it. A number of countries, I think maybe 1 or 2 countries beyond that, but we're all training lethal autonomous weapon systems. We're training AI how to find a target, how to decide if it is a target, and to decide on its own whether that target should die. And so we're already playing. When Elon Musk said that we were playing with the devil, I don't necessarily think he was thinking in terms of a, two-horned kind of a demonic kind of creature. I think he was talking about playing with the devil in our own humanity.
Interesting. Wow, didn't hear that perspective before. But Robert, you get another opportunity because I thought what you were saying is pretty much spot on. Please continue if you're there.
I agree. I don't think it's a devil in that sense. It's a manifest of our negative tendencies. But I agree that we have to persist with AI. We have to go forward because of competition. We will be left behind by other countries that would look to outdo us. And, whoever succeeds in this, it's just like other advances in technology. You'll be left behind, and second is last in this game. So they have to compete.
Thank you, Robert and Riverhead. Insightful commentary here. We're going to move forward here because we see the number of callers come in, and we can base our show's popularity by simply the number of people that are calling in reference to our guest. If you'd like to email me, and that's something that I suggest, you have any questions about the show, my email is just DRSKY, Dr. Sky, at WABCRadio.com, and appreciate comments. I do respect everybody's commentaries, and I will promise to get back to you. Let's go out west here to the United States where I'm at, and we welcome on line number 5, Steve in Arizona. Steve, how are you doing this morning?
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Sky, and your guest. I have a thought. All this AI thing kind of it reminds me of what the Luddites believed. Way back.
Luddites, I love it.
200 years. They believed. Technology was against the workers. That automation benefited owners, but impoverished the labor.
And there's a big society, Steve, of Luddites still active in many communities. Let's not dismiss that possibility, right, Guy? They're all over.
So. And the result is a loss of skill, dignity, and control over their craft. And with that in mind, okay, I look at what AI can do for me, and I think your guest has said this, that there are many ways that AI can help us. And to some extent, I think we should focus on those things rather than, these almost imagined negative aspects of AI. So I'd like to hear what your guest says.
Yeah, absolutely, Guy. Steve brings up some very insightful points.
Well, it may be imagined from your perspective, but 33,000 of the AI experts that signed the MIT letter, 50% of them felt that without some sort of guardrails to rein in our human tendencies around this, there was an existential chance that this could lead to an existential outcome. This is a powerful technology that could be misused, and given our history, we have to look at that as a pretty real possibility unless we do something proactively. Now, I've been in the industry where for years we would, the sugar industry said, no, it doesn't cause diabetes. And, tobacco industry, no, it said it doesn't cause cancer. And social oil industry said, no, we don't pollute the environment. We've seen this tendency of industries want to covering it up. The interesting thing here is that during the, even today and during the Senate hearings, it was the industry saying, this is an industry that needs some regulation. Mm-hmm. They were calling for it. Yeah, so I don't think it's going to stifle our competition. It's a misnomer to think that putting some safety guardrails in place means we can't compete with China. I think that's a false flag. I think what's important is how much do we care about protecting people in advance, or are we going to wait till something goes wrong before we do something?
What would you say, Guy? Steve, you brought up some very insightful points, but here's my question to you, Guy. How can we train AI to value our freedoms as humans and maybe put that as a prima facie thing that AI is supposed to defend? What do you say about that? I mean, we talk about freedom here when I do the American exceptionalism stories because we're proud to be Americans, and obviously we talk about that. What would you say about that? I mean, you can, of course, teach a machine to do something, but why not teach about human freedoms? Wouldn't that be a very safe and secure way to have AI not get out of the box? Because it's always going to go back to our own individual freedoms.
Remember when I talked about opportunities? You just hit on another one. Why not? Why can't we get someone to develop a machine that would actually help train other machines? We already are using AIs to train other AIs. Why not train a humanitarian module? That could be, for a lot of places, a really important law enforcement, education, governance. There's 1,000 places that could use a module like that. That's an opportunity for someone younger than me.
Very interesting. You say it well. The callers continue to come into the theater of the mind, and next up at the microphone, we're going to welcome on line 4, Charlie in Brooklyn. You're on the air with Guy Morris. Good morning. Thanks for your patience.
Yeah, Dr. Sky, I enjoy your program. I don't know if you could hear me well. I'm parked in a car. Can you hear me?
That's all right. We take calls from everywhere, and the car sounds good. Is everything okay?
Very good. Dr. Sky, I just want to bring up 2 points, and then I'll get off the air and listen to your answer. I use AI. I manage 2 different businesses. It's very helpful, but I find a lot of mistakes in. I have to proofread everything 3 or 4 times. Intricate stuff. A lot of it is wrong. Another question that I have, I don't know if people realize how wrong this AI is, It's on the internet. I have 2 or 3 companies I have on the computer, the desktop. But make a long story short, okay, that's the first point. There's a lot of wrong stuff, and people aren't going to recognize it because you have to look it up. All right. Now, the second point is, where is all this going? Because sometimes I can get on the computer, and AI knows me personally, intricate financial stuff, personal stuff. Where is it going? Who am I giving this to? That's all. I'll get off the air and I'll listen to you.
Well, Charlie, it's nice to get a call from somebody in the car. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you're traveling all over the country, safely to make the call. As you're driving, maybe not so much. But again, we appreciate Charlie. Isn't that cool, Guy? We get a call from a car. There you go.
I love it. I'm enjoying all of this conversation. This is great. Well, Charlie, I forgot kind of the first thing. I got so hung up on the where's it going. But the data that there's a lot of people that are basically jumping in to use the AI. It became the big thing. And I knew immediately that there would be companies that made mistakes and saw less than optimum results for a number of reasons. One is the tools, while they're super smart, they're not fully integrated yet. So, for example, an LLM can write something that sounds incredibly, almost like college-level articulation of the language, but has its facts wrong because it's more a model about building language than it is about sourcing facts. Now, they're working, Google especially, with its databases, working on connecting the two. Bing is working on connecting the two with their Copilot. That's a phase they're now working on. Yes. That will improve over time and tighten up where there's fact-checking in the LLM models. Where's it going, though? Where's all this information? Think about where the Internet has been going with cell phones and everything else over the last 20 years. They want to predict what you're going to buy. They want to predict where you live. They want to predict how you're going to vote. There's agents, millions of them out right now, watching sites, watching tools, watching websites, social media, creating profiles, right, by some marketing company that wants to figure out how to use that information to get you to buy something they want you to buy. And we almost have to develop this thick skin of ignoring them, but they're not going to go away. So how it's being used is that they're trying to create a system. And this is one of the things I'm talking about. And I was in the system. I was with Microsoft when we developed PRISM with the U.S. government. There is a push by a number of people to use this information, Palantir in particular, even Musk. Wants to use this information to create profiles of every American that they can use to at least try and influence us if you try and take the most benign view of it. Now, we can be aware of that. We should be aware of that without being afraid of it, because if I'm aware of something trying to influence me, I can decide to turn it off.
Well, you know something, Guy, I have to jump in on this one because Charlie in the car, he brought up some great points. But how about this? And I know it's a little bit off topic, but I think people will get excited about it. Let us hope, in my humble opinion, that we do not come and become a cashless society, because with the iteration of all these technologies, then every single thing you do would be continually tracked. You want to buy a car from somebody. Let's say you want to negotiate. You go out and you pull some money out of your bank account, whatever. We know there's restrictions on dollar amounts and things like that. But what about kids who get birthday cards with cash in it? I mean, all these little things. We need it, but I hope, and I don't know what your commentary will be, but I'll be listening. I hope we don't become a cashless society.
I got some bad news for you.
What's that? We're going to be one soon?
Well, I can tell you that the Federal Reserve, the IMF, the Bank of England, the World Bank, BRICS, the BRICS Alliance, they're all looking at this as the next version of money because of the complexities of cash versus credit cards and all these other things. They see it as a way of using the combination of AI, crypto encryption, or quantum encryption, rather, and the blockchain to create a more secure currency. The problem is you're right, it creates the model for them to not only track everything they do, but use what China does penalize people if they don't have the right citizen score.
A personal credit score, right, as opposed to a credit score. But let me throw this one.
I used to think it would never happen here, but it possibly could. And they're already testing the systems now.
I'm not disagreeing with you. I think there's a large majority of people out there would say, hell no, we want to keep our cash. But here's another quick...
with you.
Yeah, here's another quick question before the time runs out. Your opinion.
I agree.
I like a host that can agree, but you can also disagree. But here we go. How about this? A definition, if you must, or can, I know you can, or you will, of tokenization, and what does it mean? And then relate that to the entire world of what's happening with these computers. Tokenization is what? Talk about that.
Okay. When ChatGPT came out, the world went crazy. Because for almost everybody, unless you signed on a particular license, it was free. Mm-hmm. Now, tokenization, but that limits you to a certain number of hours, right? For most people, that's not a problem if you're doing it once in a while. But if you want to integrate it into your business, you've got to now integrate it into your workflow across X number of employees, and that starts to get monetized. Now, many times you can sign a contract, and that gives you a certain amount of tokens for free, but companies are realizing they're burning through a year's worth of tokens in a matter of months. And then those tokens start adding up. And what you're seeing in the tokens is what's happening. You've got all these early investments basically saying, build this out, build this out, build this out, build this out. And as that investment dollars start to run out, these companies actually have to start making a profit at some point. And so you're going to start to see the tokenization is the cost, the actual cost of actually running these highly expensive data centers and chips. Now, an example of that could be ChatGPT, OpenAI, had a AI video AI called Sora. Fabulous product, really photorealistic, actually so good it started generating videos of celebrities having fights that actually went viral. It was so good. Yeah. They pulled it. Now they pulled it, and I suspect they pulled it for two reasons. One is that's an incredibly difficult legal issue to say I gave you the tool to create fraud. Secondly, it was super expensive. It was like the kind of revenues they thought they could get, the cost of it was 12 times more. So they were talking like $25 million in order to generate $2 million of revenue. The cost of running that kind of a data center with that level of AI was just too expensive. Now, the good news is for humanity, that may be a constraint for how far this goes, how deep this goes, and where it goes. The bad news of that same analysis says only the people that governments and the wealthy companies are really going to have the real power behind this. The rest of us will have the tokens.
That's interesting. Interesting conversation as we almost go to the very hard break at the bottom of hour number 2 here. I just want to remind everybody, I think I'll get a laugh out of you, and maybe some in the audience will go, yeah, you're absolutely right. Smarter people than me that have said if your business is not making money, or a profit, I should say, it's a hobby. What say you? That's an interesting way to look at it. If your business is not making a profit. Well, I love hobbies too, but there you go, right? Interesting.
It's a hobby, or it's something for the care of humanity, a nonprofit. I mean, businesses have to maintain a profit, or they go out of business. You can't. That's unsustainable to spend more than you make. That's just the fact of life and the fact of society. So it's either you can call it a hobby or you can call it short-lived, right? But it's not sustainable. So
well, where I got that from, There's
got to be a return on that investment.
No, I hear you. Where I got that from is Dave Ramsey, and I had a laugh when I heard it because, again, not disrespectful to people that are not making a profit, but he said it in a straight way to somebody who called, and it was a very interesting comment that he made. We'll continue on the other side of this particular break that we call the hard break, but a little analysis of what's in the heavens as we move back to some of the original disciplines of what we talk about. For you, if you look into the northwest sky as you continue to look into this beautiful time of the year called the dog days of summer, aside from all the smoke, hopefully that clears, the planet Venus shines and adorns the northwest sky after sunset. The new moon just occurred on the 14th, and the moon and Venus were extremely close last night. Tomorrow night, you have another opportunity to see that, a beautiful waxing crescent moon. First quarter on the 21st, and don't forget, as we move toward the full moon, which is on the 29th, the full, apropos name, the full thunder moon. And then in August, we get a spacecraft, part of a SpaceX rocket booster slamming into the moon. We'll talk about maybe how you can see that. And also one of the best meteor showers of the year around mid-August as the dog days of summer end, the Perseids. We'll be right back on the Dr. Sky Experience with author Guy Morris. In your calls, 1-800-848-9222.
The Dr. Sky Experience.
Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network. This is the Dr. Sky Experience. Always look to the sky. 77 WABC. Now, here's Dr. Sky.
Hello, everybody. You're listening to me, Ruta Lee, on the Dr. Sky Experience on Talk Radio WABC.
Our intelligence is what makes us human, and AI is an extension of that quality. A quote from Jan LeCun, an author of renown. As we continue to move through time and space, 33 minutes after the hour, you just heard a very exceptional promo from one of the greatest actresses, in my opinion, of all time, Ruta Lee. If you're not sure who she is, or was, oh, she's still there, ladies and gentlemen, her 90s, blessings to her. A most incredible movie, Witness, for the prosecution. Another great star, Marlene Dietrich, is in it, and we had the honor of speaking with Ruta Lee. She knows just about everybody in Hollywood. 33 minutes after the hour, let's continue with the callers. Tom, you've been patient in Shirley, Long Island. How are you this morning? And you're on with Guy Morris.
Thanks for taking my call, Dr. Sky. I love your show. I never try to miss an episode.
Thank
you. And Mr. Morris, I'm fascinated by your influence on and knowledge of AI. My question is, and it's a few of them, who's going to do the regulating here in North America as far as the guidelines? And is it the same regulation that's going to be held globally to everybody? So no weapons of mass destruction of what we know of now can be maybe like thrown out there to another post where we can't control anything, but they can. I'm concerned about the future with this country, the way it is, and especially with AI, not knowing who can get better regulations than what we're going to have.
Interesting, Tom.
Can you
this is
explain that
interesting.
to me?
Yeah, I like this guy because, and I say to you, Guy, this is interesting. I like what Tom's talking about. You're the expert on this in the theater of the mind here.
Well, I think Tom is exactly right. I think that it's not only regulation in a unique district, but how does that apply? Because AI is universal. It can go across the internet. How does that apply in Canada? How does it apply in Europe? How does it apply in Asia and Latin America, the Middle East? And so we do have right now a regulation problem. The EU right now is ahead of most companies or most countries in setting up a couple of years ago, they set up the EU Act. Now, in my opinion, the EU Act was the AI Act was a good start, but focused more on consumer protections, like getting biases out of facial recognition and security measures around using biometrics for security and a few things to protect consumers, but didn't get to the broader issues of who gets to have it, how far does this to get distributed based on money? Does any drug lord with $1 billion can basically set up his own data center and run his own to scam people all over the world? So we need, and Canada's working on regulation too, but theirs has stalled for 2 years. There's now talk of a new regulation in Congress that would sort of usurp a number of states who are already getting impatient and setting up their own regulations. So I speak to this in the book and basically saying the patchwork is okay, but it's making the problem more complicated and worse, especially for the AI companies that need to comply, and nobody wants to basically be forced into a situation where they're having to comply just because one state said so. So the right way to do this is to start to have some broader conversations with at a national level and then an international level to start understanding what this technology is and defining how we want to live with that together and what we all define as safe. Because I think that then provides a roadmap for these companies to steer through, right? None of them want to necessarily break the rules intentionally, but when the rules aren't clear and they're changing daily, and you're trying to also compete, if you talk about roadblocks to competition, that is, in my opinion, one of the number one roadblocks. Lack of a clear regulatory environment from which to grow.
Tom, I appreciate you and your insightful common sense commentary. I hope you'll continue to be with our show, and thanks for the nice comments. Let's go to line number 5. He's been patient. Roger in New York, you're on with Guy Morris. How are you this morning?
Gentlemen, these shows that you have are going to be known as the episodes of the Twilight Zone in the future. That's how great this stuff is. All right, now let me get to the
Twilight Zone.
Me too.
Oh, well, excellently written, and a lot of actors.
And don't forget The Outer Limits. If you ever seen The Outer Limits, that also gives a little.
That one freaked me out.
There you go. Go ahead, Roger in New York. You're on the air still.
Okay.
Go ahead.
I'm going to get to the meat and potatoes, folks. Sit in your chairs, fasten your seatbelts.
Okay.
China, communist China, and Russia does not want America to have artificial data centers. They want to be number one in the world in artificial intelligence, and that will take them into the future. But as we look at stuff like this, people are worried about regulations and everything. Believe me, China and Russia are worried about any regulations with data centers and artificial intelligence. But unfortunately, in America, this is how it's going to be, folks. We have the most powerful army. We have the greatest atomic arsenal weapons out there. We have data centers. You know who's going to be in charge of that in the future? Let me finish. Mommy Tommy, the mayor, when he gets politically, Cortez, Obar, all of them, to lead. They're the ones, Jeffries, are going to be in charge of it. Do you want that? With open borders and legal immigration.
Well, Roger, I pose a challenge to you. Why don't you call again tomorrow night, because we have a special guest as we talk about American exceptionalism, and I'll not give you the name right now because we'll keep that a surprise, but he's a senior editor of the New American Magazine. He talks a lot about the John Birch Society, and that subject goes into the realm of American exceptionalism. But go ahead, Guy, if you'd like to comment on what Roger is talking.
Yeah, Russia in particular has absolutely zero regard for their environment. China, however, is trying to be smart about this, and I think they understand the limits of growth because they have to import all of their energy. They're actually putting data centers in watertight modules in shallow, rocky coastal regions to basically use ocean waters to keep them cool, which not only reduces the amount of electricity, but reduces the amount of environmental impact. They've also been able to successfully power an entire data center using solar power. Now, granted, it was in their western region, which gets a lot of sun, but it shows that it's possible with the right engineering. So I think we just need to realize that part of this competition is not just gets there first, but are we going to have an environment that the whole world can live with when it's done? Right. So right now, you're right. We have the most powerful army, but we spend twice as much as the next 4 countries combined. And so part of it is that's tax dollars on us. And while we have this great space program, Elon Musk has become a billionaire, those are still based on our tax dollars. So we're creating this massive amount of debt, and at some point in time, that's going to have a consequence as well. And so part of the AI tsunami that we talk about is how all of these things converge together between lost jobs, infrastructure, all of these things kind of work together to say we've got to manage this carefully to make sure it doesn't undermine us.
Roger in New York, always insightful. I encourage you to call tomorrow night in less than 24 hours as we talk about American exceptionalism, a story that I'm so proud to talk about, truth, justice, and the American way. As we continue, never forget, We celebrate our 250th anniversary as a nation, and I'm sure many people will love the commentary from our special guest and your calls. Also, in future episodes, as we talk about the theater of the mind here on the Dr. Sky Experience, we are working very hard behind the scenes to get guests, and one guest in particular. We're hoping to have the CEO of a company called Space Mirror. What's that? Launching these mirrors into outer space, beaming down sunlight to certain areas of the world. Well, we'll give them a fair shake at being heard in the theater of the mind, and also a very high-level individual with a great PhD, and many, I'm sure, others, in the world of earthquakes. Why are we having so many of these earthquakes around the world? Why has the San Andreas Fault been quiet? And so many things as what? We talk about the great mysteries of the universe. Guy Morris, tell us your website again so people can go there, because I know time is limited. I want to get as many people on the air, but I do want to segue, if you don't mind, when we come back, to some of the other things that you write from fiction, and also our conversation with you about futurism and prophecy. Please continue.
GuyMorrisBooks.com.
It's a simple one to go to, and a lot of interesting information. We appreciate you on this particular episode of the Dr. Sky Experience. And it's so amazing. Also, maybe we'll throw in a couple of other quick questions from myself as the host. This whole concept of machine learning and how some of these computers, many now, are being taught what? To replicate and improve themselves over time. Maybe that's an area we need to be able to have our foot, if we need to, on the brake pedal. What say you?
Yeah.
Very interesting. Your conversation.
Now?
Well, no, I was just kind of teasing that. We'll jump into it when we come back from the break. Again, ladies and gentlemen, 1-800-848-9222 brings you into what we call the theater of the mind. And why do we call that? Because at this point, we're not watching a screen, and you're not watching a host, and you're not listening or watching to other callers. So what do we have? We have the theater of the mind that brings up what? More mysteries. Remember when you were a child and you imagined things. Let's never get away, right, Guy Morris, of the very special thing called imagination, because out of imagination came so many amazing inventions. What say you?
Imagination, I think, is one of the things that makes us most human, right? Because fantasy is basically to depart from reality, right? To separate from reality and somehow detach from it. Imagination is part of what we do to basically build reality, solve problems, make it more, make it greater. How do we do this? What do we want to do? How do I amplify that? How do I say it in a song, in a movie, in a play, in a book? Imagination is what connects our humanity to the facts and give us on that reality that we want to live.
You say it so well. We got to go to the break. Isn't it terrible when we keep saying we have to go to the break and we have to cut people off? I feel bad when I do that. But again,
I'm glad you're doing it. Otherwise, I'll talk forever.
I say this role is like that of an air traffic controller, and I say it with humility that we're trying to bring the planes in and we're trying to get them to take off, and who, the host, has to make sure that they don't collide. What a good
land the bills. Land the bills.
Absolutely. And we'll be right back after these important announcements on the Dr. Sky Experience.
The Dr. Sky Experience.
Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Dr. Sky Experience is on the air. 77 WABC. Now, here's Dr. Sky.
Hi, this is Larry Dunn, original keyboardist and musical director from that great musical sensation, Earth, Wind, and Fire. Always remember to keep your eyes to the skies with my friend, Dr. Sky, on The Dr. Sky Show.
"47 minutes after the hour, we continue with our very special guest, Guy Morris, as we move to the top of hour number 2. Let's say hello, and we thank you for your patience. On line 2, David in Staten Island, you're on the air. Thanks for your patience.
Dr. Sky and Company, some thought came to me a couple of days ago, and I think get on your program like a last minute. I just happen to remember about a 10-year-old little boy put his hands on a dinosaur bone, at the Museum of Natural History. But if I go back further in time, before the dinosaurs, was Pangea.
That's right.
Pangea is said to be like a one huge continent that broke up into the 7 continents of the world today.
Yes.
If you take that into account with all the faults that we have throughout the world, the Earth could be expanding. Now, like the movie show of Krypton and Superman, we may be leading into something in the future we don't want.
Well, we're talking with our special guest, Guy Morris, about what the probability is if computers, and he's not saying that this is evil, there'll be big changes coming. So I think this is interesting, David. Yes, we started off as one big united continent, Pangea, and then we've now evolved. So the whole universe is evolving, and the computer world is. Guy Morris, your simple response to that, I think that was a good analysis that David brought to the table.
I think he brings up an excellent point that I try to make in the book, which is, for our entire evolution on Earth, one of our key survival skills wasn't because we were the fastest, the baddest, the biggest, or the strongest. We didn't have the biggest teeth. We couldn't swim underwater, but we were the smartest and we could work together. And now we're at every other invention we've ever created by man, every single one has been to enable our natural intelligence to do more with less effort, or to do it better, more accurate, more often. Everything has improved, have basically empowered and enabled humanity. Yes. Now we're at what I call a paradigm shift, which is where we're going to have a machine that will become smarter than humans. That's not an if, it's a when. It will replicate itself. It's already 80% of the way there, and we can talk about that later. And we're already training it on how to target and kill. Wow. Those are 3 things that we've never, ever, ever had in any other technology that we've created. That's the paradigm shift that we need to be careful of. We could lead to a utopia if we're careful. It could lead to a dystopia if we're careless and just let it run.
And I'll repeat myself to you and the audience, and I respectfully say that to everyone who's listening, including you as the guest. Why not program these machines with the whole thing of human dignity and the concept of freedom? Because if we continue to push that button, I think maybe we're onto a better trail. But again, here's another shape shift. It's hard to say. As a host, the futurist and prophecy side of you. We don't really have a lot of time to go into it, but if you'll come back, I'd like you to talk about the books that you've written. Quantum Portal has opened the image. Swarm, when AI decodes the end-time prophecies. And prophecy analytics. Listen to this, folks. How to discern prophecy in a plain and insightful way with mathematical validation. Powerful stuff. So you're not just a one-dimensional guy. You also talk about those subjects. And I hope you'll do that. I hope you'll come back and do this in another experience with the Dr. Sky experience. If you'll say yes, it'll make me happy.
Absolutely.
Let's close out the show as we continue. Line number 1, Minnie. She's been patient. She's in New Hyde Park. And you are on with Guy Morris. Good morning. And Minnie, are you there?
The Senate. They want to do away with the presidency. They want to keep the House. What is the future of New York City if they do that? Can AI tell?
Say that again to the audience as far as your question or comment. I didn't quite hear it, and I don't think anybody did.
It's politics. The Democratic Socialists wanted to do away with the Senate. They said it's not democratic enough. I don't know why they're saying each one gets 2 states. They want to do away with the presidency. They want to keep the House. Mm-hmm. And they want it to be in charge of everything. Can AI tell what's going to happen?
Wow. That's like a prophecy question there, Minnie.
Is that what you're asking? Can it predict the future?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's an excellent question.
Minnie, I love you. You bring up something good.
What we've learned, so if an AI were designed, trained, got the data, was basically modified to do it, yes, AIs can predict the future, and that's how they started. Matter of fact, the model I built way back in the 1980 was an economic prediction model. And so AIs are much better at doing it. They can, and the data is vaster. But what we've learned is that they're much better the more narrow you get in terms of the thing you want them to predict. The more broad you want to have in terms of look at the whole world and tell us what next year is going to bring, you're going to get very strange answers. So this is when we get into, again, we talk about AI having connections to data or language models just doing good language. Prediction is a specific type of model that most consumers won't see. They are working. Do have some now. The Army has some. The Navy, the military has some. CIA has some. NSA has some. Banks have some. Corporations have some, and they're enabling many of these models that already exist with AI to see if they can improve and find new things that they weren't finding before. And here's the difference why AI will make a difference. In the past, we used to have to design these models to look for specific things with specific types of data with specific outcomes. With AI could find things we never thought even to look for.
Amazing.
And so, yes, we are modeling with AI.
Minnie, I'm going to ask you, if you tune in tomorrow night, we'll do more on American exceptionalism. That fits really smack down in the middle.
I just want to know, they're going to take away the Senate. I just want to know how it's going to affect, do they have to modify the Constitution? Do we have to live like this?
Well, if the majority were voted in, right, excuse me, Guy, but I'm saying if the majority were voted in those particular political disciplines, then I guess we'll have a hell of a fight on our hands. But for the rest of you out there that believe in American exceptionalism, tune in tomorrow. I think you'll get another splash of positivity, as Guy Morris has given us for these hours. And so, I want to mention something, Guy. I'm proud to say it because you're the author. In this book, ladies and gentlemen, this is not just a book about fearful. It's not just about, potential, positivity without answers and how do you solve these things or what useful information. In the back, the appendix, here's something. If you're concerned about your jobs, you do a great job in talking in Appendix B. Job changes by industry. And I won't go through the list, and certainly you and I won't because of time. But if you have one, if you're an administrative clerical office support person, if you're concerned about the displacement, which is a factual number, you talk about new roles that people can go into. And we also have to get up off our backsides, right? And if we're looking at this and say, save my job from AI, maybe it's a good time, respectfully, to get into the other discipline to learn. What say you? It's very simple.
Well, we go through all of this information, and then toward the end, we basically say, okay, what are you going to do about it? This isn't doom and gloom. This is, hey, something's coming. Here's your time to action, to create an action plan. So we kind of outline a generic 90-day action plan for someone to consider how to make a major change in their life, or if it needs to be a major change, and what that change needs to be. And we give them multiple priorities and options, everything from, if you're old enough and you got money, maybe just retire early and enjoy Italy. Maybe you want to change careers entirely and do something that's not going to be touched by technology. You're going to be a gardener or a masseuse or a carpenter or electrician, and those are good jobs that have good incomes and futures. Or maybe you want to become just the local AI champion within your industry to be the what I became in my early career, which is an agent of change. Or maybe you want to just actually dive into this thing and be one of the people creating this new paradigm for humanity. And maybe you're one of those entrepreneurs that helped create this model that you talk about of having AI kind of check on us and care for itself and taking care of some of these other things, right? Use AI to help protect us. And I think there's lots of opportunity for those AI to protect us models. So
and that's why I love your book, Guy, because simply this, to everybody listening, you have a lot of doom and gloom stuff out there, and we want to be on the positive side here. We want to be truthful. Truthful is the answer to everything. Tell the truth. Why not? Is that a novel thing in today's world? Well, try to tell the truth is important. But the interesting thing is in this book, and again, I'm promoting it highly, that you have job changes for industry, resources for AI training, and target industry leaders that they themselves can look at steering their companies. But let us hope that there's a way that we can put the brake pedal down to the floor if we have to push hard in seeing AI take over. And yet many callers have come to this particular, theater of the mind this particular night and morning with concerns that who's going to regulate all this? And I guess that's for a story for the next edition when we have you back.
I'll leave that with one thought. I think a lot of us, maybe some of us remember growing up terrified by the Cold War. Every single day something could happen until we got SALT treaties and everyone started saying, hey, let's calm this down. We're all going to agree to what that means. Then the world started to breathe again. I think the fear that we're all feeling can be done if we really just start that. Let's agree to what this new paradigm is going to be.
Sounds good. Guy Morris, always a pleasure to have you here in the Theater of the Mind. And by the 17 or 18 plus phone calls that we got in the 2 hours, I think we're ringing a bell. And we give everybody out there an A+ for their commentary and yourself. Thank you. We'll do it again. GuyMorrisBooks.com. And don't forget, as the night continues, early morning for many of you, stay tuned to 77 WABC for another side of midnight with Lionel as he takes you and I into the morning hours when the sun shines once again and hopefully in less polluted skies than the Canadian fires. Big things coming. We'll keep you abreast the many mysteries that are out there. And thanks to our helmsmen, Bill and Jackson, for doing what they do, because without them, I'd be lost in space. Thank you so much. We'll see you tomorrow.
The Dr. Sky Experience.
Entertaining and informative.
On the Red Apple Podcast Network. The Dr. Sky Experience is on the air. 77 WABC. Now, here's Dr. Sky.
Hi, this is Larry Dunn, original keyboardist and musical director from that great musical sensation, Earth, Wind, and Fire. Always remember to keep your eyes to the skies with my friend, Dr. Sky, on The Dr. Sky Show.
47 minutes after the hour, we continue with our very special guest, Guy Morris, as we move to the top of hour number 2. Let's say hello, and we thank you for your patience. On line 2, David in Staten Island, you're on the air. Thanks for your patience.
Dr. Sky and Company, some thought came to me a couple of days ago, and I think get on your program like a last minute. I just happen to remember about a 10-year-old little boy put his hands on a dinosaur bone at the Museum of Natural History. But if I go back further in time, before the dinosaurs, was Pangea.
That's right.
Pangea is said to be like one huge continent that broke up into the 7 continents of the world today.
Yes.
If you take that into account with all the faults that we have throughout the world, the Earth could be expanding. Now, like the movie show of Krypton and Superman, we may be leading into something in the future we don't want.
Well, we're talking with our special guest, Guy Morris, about what the probability is if computers, and he's not saying that this is evil, there'll be big changes coming. So I think this is interesting, David. Yes, we started off as one big united continent, Pangea, and then we've now evolved. So the whole universe is evolving, and the computer world is. Guy Morris, your simple response to that, I think that was a good analysis that David brought to the table.
I think he brings up an excellent point that I try to make in the book, which is, for our entire evolution on Earth, one of our key survival skills wasn't because we were the fastest, the baddest, the biggest, or the strongest. We didn't have the biggest teeth. We couldn't swim underwater, but we were the smartest and we could work together. And now we're at every other invention we've ever created by man, every single one has been to enable our natural intelligence to do more with less effort, or to do it better, more accurate, more often. Everything has improved, have basically empowered and enabled humanity. Yes. Now we're at what I call a paradigm shift, which is where we're going to have a machine that will become smarter than humans. That's not an if, it's a when. It will replicate itself. It's already 80% of the way there, and we can talk about that later. And we're already training it on how to target and kill. Wow. Those are three things that we've never, ever, ever had in any other technology that we've created. That's the paradigm shift that we need to be careful of. We could lead to a utopia if we're careful. It could lead to a dystopia if we're careless and just let it run.
And I'll repeat myself to you and the audience, and I respectfully say that to everyone who's listening, including you as the guest. Why not program these machines with the whole thing of human dignity and the concept of freedom? Because if we continue to push that button, I think maybe we're onto a better trail. But again, here's another shape shift, it's hard to say, as a host. The futurist and prophecy side of you. We don't really have a lot of time to go into it, but if you'll come back, I'd like you to talk about the books that you've written. Quantum Portal has opened the image. Swarm, when AI decodes the end-time prophecies, and prophecy analytics. Listen to this, folks. How to discern prophecy in a plain and insightful way with mathematical validation. Powerful stuff. So you're not just a one-dimensional guy. You also talk about those subjects. And I hope you'll do that. I hope you'll come back and do this in another experience with the Dr. Sky experience. If you'll say yes, it'll make me happy.
Absolutely.
Let's close out the show as we continue. Line number one, Minnie. She's been patient. She's in New Hyde Park. And you are on with Guy Morris. Good morning. And Minnie, are you there?
The Senate. They want to do away with the presidency. They want to keep the House. What is the future of New York City if they do that? Can AI tell?
Say that again to the audience as far as your question or comment. I didn't quite hear it, and I don't think anybody did.
It's politics. The Democratic Socialists wanted to do away with the Senate. They said it's not democratic enough. I don't know why they're saying each one gets 2 states. They want to do away with the presidency. They want to keep the House. Mm-hmm. And they want it to be in charge of everything. Can AI tell what's going to happen?
Wow. That's like a prophecy question there, Minnie.
Is that what you're asking? Can it predict the future?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's an excellent question.
Minnie, I love you. You bring up something good.
What we've learned, so if an AI were designed, trained, got the data, was basically modified to do it, yes, AIs can predict the future, and that's how they started. Matter of fact, the model I built way back in the 1980 was an economic prediction model. And so AIs are much better at doing it. And the data is vaster. But what we've learned is that they're much better the more narrow you get in terms of the thing you want them to predict. The more broad you want to have in terms of look at the whole world and tell us what next year is going to bring, you're going to get very strange answers. So this is when we get into, again, we talk about AI having connections to data or language models just doing good language. Prediction is a specific type of model that most consumers won't see. They do have some now. The Army has some. The Navy, the military has some. CIA has some. NSA has some. Banks have some. Corporations have some. And they're enabling many of these models that already exist with AI to see if they can improve and find new things that they weren't finding before. And here's the difference why AI will make a difference. In the past, we used to have to design these models to look for specific things with specific types of data with specific outcomes. With AI could find things we never thought even to look for.
Amazing.
And so, yes, we are modeling with AI.
Minnie, I'm going to ask you, if you tune in tomorrow night, we'll do more on American exceptionalism. That fits really smack dab in the middle.
I just want to know, they're going to take away the Senate. I just want to know how it's going to affect do they have to modify the Constitution? Do we have to live like this?
Well, if the majority were voted in, right, excuse me, Guy, but I'm saying if the majority were voted in those particular political disciplines, then I guess we'll have a hell of a fight on our hands. But for the rest of you out there that believe in American exceptionalism, tune in tomorrow. I think you'll get another splash of positivity, as Guy Morris has given us for these hours. And so, I want to mention something, Guy. I'm proud to say it because you're the author. In this book, ladies and gentlemen, this is not just a book about fearful. It's not just about, potential, positivity without answers and how do you solve these things or what useful information. In the back, the appendix, here's something. If you're concerned about your jobs, you do a great job in talking in Appendix B. Job changes by industry. And I won't go through the list, and certainly you and I won't because of time. But if you have one, if you're an administrative clerical office support person, if you're concerned about the displacement, which is a factual number, you talk about new roles that people can go into. And we also have to get up off our backsides, right? And if we're looking at this and say, save my job from AI, maybe it's a good time, respectfully, to get into the other discipline to learn. What say you? It's very simple.
Well, we go through all of this information, and then toward the end, we basically say, "Okay, what are you going to do about it? This isn't doom and gloom. This is, hey, something's coming. Here's your time to action, to create an action plan." So we kind of outline a generic 90-day action plan for someone to consider how to make a major change in their life, or if it needs to be a major change, and what that change needs to be. And we give them multiple priorities and options, everything from, if you're old enough and you got money, maybe just retire early and enjoy Italy, to, maybe you want to change careers entirely and do something that's not going to be touched by technology. You're going to be a gardener or a masseuse or a carpenter or electrician, and those are good jobs that have good incomes and futures. Or maybe you want to become just the local AI champion within your industry to be the what I became in my early career, which is an agent of change. Or maybe you want to just actually dive into this thing and be one of the people creating this new paradigm for humanity. And maybe you're one of those entrepreneurs that helped create this model that you talk about of having AI kind of check on us and care for itself and taking care of some of these other things, right? Use AI to help protect us. And I think there's lots of opportunity for those AI to protect us models. So
and that's why I love your book, Guy, because simply this, to everybody listening, you have a lot of doom and gloom stuff out there, and we want to be on the positive side here. We want to be truthful. Truthful is the answer to everything. Tell the truth. Why not? Is that a novel thing in today's world? Well, try to tell the truth is important. But the interesting thing is, in this book, and again, I'm promoting it highly, that you have job changes for industry, resources for AI training, and target industry leaders that they themselves can look at steering their companies. But let us hope that there's a way that we can put the brake pedal down to the floor if we have to push hard in seeing AI take over. And yet many callers have come to this particular, theater of the mind this particular night and morning with concerns that who's going to regulate all this? And I guess that's for a story for the next edition when we have you back.
I'll leave that with one thought. I think a lot of us, maybe some of us remember growing up terrified by the Cold War. Every single day something could happen until we got SALT treaties and everyone started saying, hey, let's calm this down. We're all going to agree to what that means. Then the world started to breathe again. I think the fear that we're all feeling can be done if we really just start that. Let's agree to what this new paradigm is going to be.
Sounds good. Guy Morris, always a pleasure to have you here in the Theater of the Mind. And by the 17 or 18 plus phone calls that we got in the 2 hours, I think we're ringing a bell. And we give everybody out there an A+ for their commentary and yourself. Thank you. We'll do it again. GuyMorrisBooks.com. And don't forget, as the night continues, early morning for many of you, stay tuned to 77 WABC for another side of midnight with Lionel, as he takes you and I into the morning hours when the sun shines once again, and hopefully in less polluted skies than the Canadian fires. Big things coming. We'll keep you abreast the many mysteries that are out there. And thanks to our helmsmen, Bill and Jackson, for doing what they do, because without them, I'd be lost in space. Thank you so much. We'll see you tomorrow.